Hello everyone. Welcome to our seminar series, Wiring Your Business for Profit. Did you know that over 47% of electrical contractors that start their own business go out of business in the first 2 years? How is it that some contractors thrive in this business and some just survive? We want you to be among those contractors who are profitable and successful. Our seminar is designed to show you how to increase your business profits immediately and grow your company efficiently. Hello, my name is John Kelsey. I'm an industry consultant and the national trainer for Hard Hat Industry Solutions, developers of Red Rhino, a web-based electrical estimating software program. I'm a 25-year veteran of the electrical construction industry. Throughout my career, I have worked in most key positions required for the trade, including electrician, foreman, project manager, estimator, and electrical contractor. I have been in your shoes and understand our business top to bottom. I've been employed by large electrical contractors and have also been an independent owner-operator. I have spoken with hundreds of electrical contractors across the U.S. and realized that many still do not understand how to run their business for profit, and yet so many wonder why they do not make more money. Our goal for this seminar, Wiring Your Business for Profit, is for you to learn how to make more money and run your business more efficiently by teaching you the key business concepts that make successful contractors. These concepts include management principles, proven winning sales strategies, useful industry standards, and the latest in tools and technology. I remember when I started as an electrical contractor, I did not understand many of these business concepts like what does profit really mean, how do you calculate it, and how do you build it into a project estimate. Boy, did I ever stumble around in the dark when it came to business. I had little idea of what my true material and labor costs were, how much I spent on overhead, and what profit was going to be left over when the project was completed. I used to work until the wee hours of the morning doing paperwork by hand and not being smart with my time. I did not have the right tools and technology at the time, nor did I know how to use them. This seminar will teach you how to work smarter, not harder, to make more money in your business. I have created a series of 5 sessions in this seminar. Each session is divided into 2 segments, Business Concepts and Tools and Technology. The Business Concept segment will cover key concepts that should be an integral part of how you operate your company and manage your projects. You will learn the definitions and application of essential business terms, the most important business principles by which to run your company, the best sales practices and strategies used by successful contractors, and the use of important industry standards applied by contractors across the nation. In Tools and Technology, we show you how to apply all these concepts efficiently and effectively using the latest in software. I recommend you complete the sessions in order 1 through 5 because Session 1 is an overview and the subsequent sessions build on each other. Let me take a moment and tell you about Red Rhino, the tool we will use to show you how to apply our seminar's business concepts. Red Rhino is a web-based estimating software program, which means you access it through the internet to do estimates, proposals, and manage projects. You can use it anywhere with an internet connection using Internet Explorer. It has been specifically designed and tested for Internet Explorer browser and may not work properly on other browsers. As a participant in our seminar, you are receiving this powerful tool free during our trial period. Okay, now let's get started with our key concepts from Session 1. As per the instructions on our setup email, you should have printed out the 3 handouts for Session 1 and have them in front of you at this time. If you have not yet printed them out, please pause the video and do so now. Handout 1 presents the key business concepts, Handout 2 is a takeoff sheet example, and Handout 3 is a labor conversion chart, which I will describe later. During the first segment, I will cover Handout 1 and our key business concepts. We will then move to Tools and Technology for the second segment and use Handouts 2 and 3. Now look at Handout 1. Follow along with me and fill in the blanks. We begin our business concept segment with simple yet critical definitions you must thoroughly understand. The first is profit. Your goal in contracting, unless you're a nonprofit entity, is to make money. The dictionary definition of profit is the return received on a business undertaking after all expenses have been met. In plain speak, what that means to you is this. Profit is what is left over for you after everything else is paid. As simple as this concept sounds, many contractors do not have any money left over for them at the end of their projects. It is for your profit that I designed this seminar. Here is another definition to keep in mind that leads us to profit. Number 2, direct costs. The dictionary definition of direct costs is direct expenses incurred in the manufacture of a product or delivery of a service. What direct cost means to you in contracting is your labor and material costs and all expenses required for a project. You would remember to include the price of trenching by your trenching contractor, but you must also include the labor it takes your electrician to lay out the trench. Do you see what I'm talking about? It is important to include all your costs for a project. If you forget to include the layout time for the underground contractor, then it is costing you out of your profit. Our next definition is overhead. Number 3. The dictionary definition says, of or pertaining to the general cost of running a business. What it means to you is everything you spend on your business, even if you are not working on projects. Overhead includes monthly or yearly expenses such as truck payments, fuel, insurances, office expenses, etc. It is very important to understand your overhead costs to project your profits. Number 4, understand revenue, direct costs, and overhead. You must understand not only how much revenue your business generates, but also know all your direct costs and overhead to determine your profit. Without this essential knowledge, you cannot grow your business. You'll learn more about revenue and costs as the seminar progresses. Since revenue comes as a result of selling, let's look at our first sales strategy as it pertains to number 5, price. Price is not the only consideration of your customer. It is often more important to offer customers value for their money and give them confidence that you will perform the work as promised rather than the lowest price. Understanding what is important to your customer on any given project is what determines how you approach price. Besides price, is your customer looking for quality workmanship, delivery schedule, reliability, technical experience, or any other factors? Find out. Look now at our second sales strategy. Number 6, set yourself apart from the competition. Submit a professional proposal. Show attention to detail in your work to gain your customer's confidence. Perform all work starting with your estimates in a timely manner. And offer cost-saving alternative solutions throughout your projects. Now, how does the electrical contracting industry break down jobs to make them more accurate and profitable? They operate based on industry standards instead of trying to recreate the proverbial wheel. So let's talk about some of these standards now to ensure that we all understand them. Every job requires that material be installed. Each material item requires labor or time to install it, plus a material cost. To estimate a job, first you prepare a material takeoff, meaning you write down every item of material that must be installed. You also include expenses, quotes, and pricing from subcontractors. You then enter the information into the estimating program, and the program helps you calculate the installation, labor for each item, plus the cost of materials and other expenses. So you start jobs by doing a number 7, material takeoff. A takeoff includes a complete list of materials required to do a given project. Again, a takeoff includes a complete list of materials required to do a given project. You also make a list of all expenses related to the project. Expenses such as hammer drill rental, trenching, electrical permits, engineering fees, or core drilling. The idea is to include everything in your takeoff sheet required to do an estimate and to do the project. Now look at Handout 1 under number 8, Labor. For accurate and profitable estimates, labor time is broken down into 1/100ths of an hour and displayed in decimal form called labor units. Take a look now at Handout 3, the conversion chart. The chart shows minutes on one side and the decimal equivalent broken down into 1/100ths of an hour on the other side. Examples of converting labor hours to decimal labor units. In decimal form, 15 minutes equals 0.25 hours or 0.25 labor units. 30 minutes equals 0.5 hours or 0.5 labor units. 45 minutes equals 0.75 labor units or 0.75 labor units. 1 hour equals 1.0 hours or 1.0 labor units. On your worksheet, labor units break down labor into 1/100ths of an hour to make the estimate more precise. Under number 9, UOM. UOM stands for unit of measure. UOMs are represented by the following abbreviation. E equals each item, or individual units. C equals 100 items, represented by the Roman numeral C. M equals 1,000 items, which is represented by the Roman numeral M. Per each unit of measure is for installing items such as disconnect switches, transformers, and panels. Per C per 100 unit of measure is typically used for installing conduit. The M per 1,000 unit of measure is typically used for installing wire and cable. Now you may have been familiar with terms such as material takeoff, labor, and UOM, but there are other terms which are also important to know in today's contractor world. The next terms apply to technology and estimating. Under number 10, wizards. Wizards in an estimating program are tools for rapid input of electrical items such as conduit, panels, transformers, and disconnect switches. You will likely use the Conduit Wizard often. It is a great tool to calculate materials and labor. I will show it to you later in this session. So, a Conduit Wizard is a tool used for rapid input of conduit runs, including feeders and branch circuitry. Number 11, wire makeup. In a conduit run, the makeup length is the amount of wire needed to extend from the end of the conduit to the termination point. Number 12, conduit application refers to the levels of difficulty for installing conduit. A normal application refers to installation less than 6 feet off the floor with a flat working surface. In a concealed application, conduit would be installed inside walls or above ceilings. In an exposed plus 10 feet application, the conduit would be installed 10 feet above the floor height, and a ladder or scaffold would be needed to install the conduit. In an exposed plus 20 feet application, the conduit would be installed 20 feet above the floor. A man lift or scaffold would be needed to install the conduit. In a slab application, conduit would be installed around concrete forms and rebar. In an underground application, conduit would be installed in a trench. Next, number 13, assemblies. Assemblies are pre-grouped lists of materials required to install items such as plugs, switches, and light fixtures. An example would be a light fixture assembly. A light fixture assembly includes the fixture, lamps, support wires, and a 4-foot fixture whip with connectors at each end and wire nuts. Number 14, recap. The recap is a summary of the estimate. It displays the total costs for all items that are included in the estimate. It shows total labor hours, total material costs, and total expenses. Having a system which provides you with the recap is essential to the estimate review process. We will see this in detail in a later session. This completes the Key Concepts handout. Next, we will look at our Tools and Technology segment using the Red Rhino program to apply the business concepts, winning sales strategies, and industry standards covered until now. I will now explain how to log on to Red Rhino, but first gather your handouts for the next segment of our seminar, and write down the username and password for Red Rhino you received in our email. Please close all applications like any email programs, Excel, or Word, but keep your browser or Internet Explorer open. By now, you should have your handouts, username, and password in front of you. First, open a new browser window and let's get to Red Rhino. I must assume that you, my audience, are experienced electricians that know how to read blueprints and prepare a material takeoff. You don't need to have experience using software programs. You will learn how to use a program as part of this seminar series. For our next segment on tools and technology, you have two options. First option, you can listen to my step-by-step instructions and follow along using your computer browser, navigating as I do. Or second option, you listen and watch the video without following along, so you can come back to your computer later and practice at your own pace. If you choose the first option and plan on following along, make sure you have completed all the setup steps in our email instructions. If you have not completed the setup instructions, we recommend you just watch the video or pause the video and complete the setup first. If you need any help or have any questions about the setup, please email me at johnk@hardhatis.com. Now let's move ahead. In your new window, type rr.hardhatis.com. Again, rr.hardhatis.com. You should now see the login page to Red Rhino. You should be familiar with our login page already if you followed the instructions provided in our setup email. Next, enter your username and password and click on the little circle with an arrow on it to the right of your password. Now you should be on the Red Rhino home page. The home page is the central control panel for Red Rhino. Today's segment on tools and technology focuses first on how to get around and navigate Red Rhino, and second, provides you with an overview of the estimating process and an introduction to entering a takeoff into this powerful program. Let's take a moment to get you oriented with this page. At the very top, the blue section is the page header containing the name Hard Hat Industry Solutions. It also contains 4 round icon buttons. Starting from the left icon button, clicking on the house always takes you back to the home page. Clicking on the question mark is for online help. The 2 figures takes you to resources, and the door with the arrow logs you out. The header of all pages of this program typically looks the same. Below the header you see several boxes in 2 columns. Each box contains links that navigate you to different functional areas of the program. The top left box says Company Administration. Under that is User Maintenance, Next, Estimate, and so on. With Red Rhino, you can create estimates, proposals, purchase orders, and invoices. You can use Red Rhino for project management to track progress and manage change orders, all of which you navigate to from the home page. The estimate process starts with your takeoff, moves through estimate development, and finishes with your proposal delivery. Estimating is essential to gaining new customers and projects. Without estimating, it is impossible to grow a successful and profitable business. We will look at the estimating process out of order, for a reason I will explain later on. So next, let's navigate to a proposal that I have created for this session. On the left side of the home page, the 3rd box down from the top is the Estimate box. In the Estimate box, click on View My Proposals/RCOs. This will land you on a page that at the top left says Proposals RCOs. This is your proposal list page. As you can see, the header is the same as the one on the home page. Below this, you find a table showing the line number, name, type, customer name, etc. This page is typical of the Red Rhino pages that display lists of documents you have previously created. In this particular case, the documents you are viewing are proposals. Also, note the buttons on the right side of the page above the table but below the header. These buttons help you to navigate to other pages related to the list you are viewing. If you had already created several proposals, you would see them listed here. Today you will only see the proposals that I created for you in advance. As an example, the proposal named Proposal Sample. Now let's move on. Under Name, click on Proposal Sample on line number 1. Now you've opened the proposal page. As before, the header is the same. The section below the navigation buttons contains information about the project and proposal, such as project name, date the proposal was created, and the total price of the proposal, among other information. The second section is customer data, takeoff information, and line items. We will get into more detail about this in another session. We will now move on to another view of the proposal. At the top right, using the navigation buttons, click on the Print Preview button. The proposal is the last step in the estimate process. The reason I am showing you the proposal first is that this is usually the only thing your customer sees of all the work you did to prepare an estimate for him. It is a very important deliverable. A deliverable is something you complete and hand over to your customer. In this case, the proposal is the first document that you must hand over to your customer. So let's look at what we have in front of us. What you see on screen right now is the print preview of a proposal as it would look when you deliver it to your customer. It contains the same information as the previous screen, but it includes signature lines for you and your customer to accept the proposal. I see so many contractors take the time to create an estimate and then send their customers an atrocious-looking proposal. That is just poor business practice. I have a story to share with you. I once needed some plumbing done at my house and called 2 plumbers to estimate the job. The first showed up in a crisp, clean uniform and a clean truck. I told him what I needed done. After looking at the work area for a while, he explained exactly what he had to do and approximately how long the water would be shut off. He wrote and handed me a professional-looking proposal on a pre-printed form with his company logo. He wrote out exactly what he would do, what parts were included, and what was not included. Later, the second plumber came to do the same estimate. His truck was dirty, and he wore a stained t-shirt. I went through the same explanation of what I needed. He briefly glanced at the area requiring work and scribbled a proposal. He obviously bought the generic estimate form at an office supply store. It had no logo on it. All that was written was a bottom line price and a short explanation. I had to ask him several questions to find out what was included in his price. His price was $120 cheaper than the other plumber. Guess which one I chose? If you guessed the first one, then you're right. Why? His proposal spelled out everything clearly and concisely. It made me feel like I could count on him. Price is not the only consideration for your customer. Your proposal presentation is very important in selling your work. Now on to our example proposal. By sending a proposal that looks like the one in front of you, you set yourself apart from your competitors. Your proposal sets your customer's expectation. You do not want your customer coming back to you during a project saying that they thought the $1,200 fuel bill to fill up the generator was included in your price. Your proposal should qualify who provides generator fuel. You get the point, right? Scroll down a bit and see how this proposal includes a list of inclusions, exclusions, and qualifications. The proposal is a reflection of your company, instills confidence in your company's ability to complete the job, and represents the quality of work delivered. In a later session, I will devote more time to the fine points of proposals. For the moment, let's navigate to the recap page. At the top left of your screen, click the browser back arrow button. You have now returned to the proposal page. Next, at the top of the page, click the navigation recap button. The recap button is the second blue button next to the edit button. You should now see the recap page, which corresponds to the example proposal we just looked at. As we discussed earlier in Handout 1, a recap is a summary of the estimate costs. It displays the total costs for all items that are included in the estimate. The top portion on this page shows you percentages for overhead, profit, and tax. In this example, it shows the overhead percentage at 15%, the profit percentage at 10%, and taxes, meaning sales taxes, at 7%. The third column gives you the dollar rates for crew, foreman, and superintendent. Crew rate is set at $38, etc. At the far right, at the top, are bond and general foreman percents. You can adjust any of these numbers as needed. Number adjustments are covered in future sessions. Below the top portion, we start looking at the meat of the recap. Look at the top left of the page titled Takeoff Summary. It lists all costs to be considered, broken down into total material costs, labor hours, and total expenses. I am showing you this recap so you can see firsthand a complete cost breakdown of an estimate. You can change these numbers and percentages when using a good estimating program like this one. In a later session, I will explain how you go through an estimate with a fine-tooth comb to maximize profit line by line. For now, I will just give you an overview of a recap. On the top left of the page below Takeoff Summary, there are items that have costs broken down. Down the left side you will see material cost, other material cost, total material cost, etc. See the top line on the left that says material cost? Now let your eyes run straight over to the right to under the total column where it shows a total material cost of $12,954. Here you see an exact material cost based on materials entered into the program. This recap also displays total labor shown as total labor hours. Look down the left side of the page about a dozen lines down from the top to where it reads total labor hours. Let your eyes run straight over to the right and you should see the total labor hours of 514.70 hours. A quick calculation would tell us that there are about 65 8-hour man days in this estimate by dividing 514 by 8 hours, and about 13 40-hour man weeks of work by dividing 514 by 40 hours. Again, I will discuss this at length in a later session, but it is good to put the labor hours in perspective of how many man days and man weeks of work are involved. At the bottom of the Takeoff Summary section, you will see the number in the total column that shows the total project cost, which is $51,970. Again, the total project cost shown on this recap is carried over to your proposal, so you do not have to re-enter any information. Here are some questions for you. In each of your estimates, do you know what your costs are to this level of detail? If you don't, how can you know how much money is left over for you at the end of the project? Or, how do you know how much you can lower your price during your customer negotiations and still be left with a good profit? Next, I will have you navigate to the estimate named Estimate Sample Session 1, where you will input the material shown on Handout 2, the takeoff sheet. Click on the Home button in the page header at the top of your screen. The circle at the top of the page with a house in it is the Home button. We have now returned to the home page which I described previously. I will now take a moment to explain something you may encounter. If you're only listening to the audio and not the video of this seminar, and you are using Red Rhino to follow along, you may encounter that the prices and totals you see on the screen are different than the ones I show on this video. Do not be alarmed. This is due to one of Red Rhino's powerful features. As vendors and suppliers provide hard hat industry solutions with new prices, we automatically update our database to keep your information more current. So, if the prices of materials you are entering have changed, your totals will be different. Having said that, let's move on to our example. Next, in the Estimate box, the third box down on the left side, click on View My Estimates. View My Estimates is the first choice on the left within the box. You're now viewing the estimate list page. It is important to note the difference between a bid, an estimate, and a proposal at this point. In our industry, these terms are often used interchangeably, but for our purposes when using a program like Red Rhino, they have slightly different meanings. Bidding or estimating is the entire estimate process. The process starts from the time you make initial contact with your customer to the moment when he receives your estimate numbers. The estimate in Red Rhino is a file that holds all the project information including the proposal. The proposal is the document you deliver to your customer. Now let's look at this page. This page shows you a list of your estimates. If you had already created several estimates, you would see them listed here. What you see at this time are estimates I have created for you for this seminar. Okay, it's time to navigate and look at some detail. Click on Estimate Sample Session 1. This is the Estimate page. The Estimate page's top portion displays information about your estimate including estimate name, description, bid date, bid time, etc. The bottom portion of the page is named Sections. Sections in Red Rhino allow you to break out pricing. For example, say your customer wants you to show a separate price to feed some roof AC units. You would create a separate section named Roof AC Units and input all materials and expenses related to them in that section. The recap will then show you a cost breakdown for each section that you create. Separate section prices are shown on the proposal. Some estimators prefer to break out pricing by creating sections named Power Distribution, Branch Circuitry, and Lighting. Other estimators choose to name the sections according to the blueprint sheet. It's a matter of preference how you break down the estimate sections. In later sessions, I will show you how to create estimates, but for now let's continue. In the lower portion under Sections, there is one section I created named Blueprint E1. You should see this at the bottom left of your screen. To the far right of your screen, you will see two takeoff columns, and below those the underlined words View and Edit. Click the underlined Edit. Again, click the underlined Edit under the second takeoff column. You're now looking at the takeoff input page. This page is where the materials and labor input starts, so it's important to understand how it works. The material and labor you enter here carry over all the way to the proposal. Immediately below the header is a light blue bar which displays the estimate name Estimate Sample Session 1 and the material and labor rates for this estimate. The information in this bar allows you to confirm you're working on the correct estimate. Today's sample estimate is named Estimate Sample Session 1. To the left of your screen below the header is a vertical box which occupies about 1/3 or 1/4 of the page. This box is where you locate the materials you want to include in your estimate. The content of this box will change as you select different options. Materials are selected by using the navigation buttons and drop-down lists within the box. This box also includes wizards mentioned in your handout, which we will learn to use in a few moments. The rest of the takeoff input page includes the name of your estimate section Blueprint E1, navigation buttons to make changes to your estimates as needed, and a table that displays materials as you input them. The table column headings you should see are Number, Description, UPC, COM code, Manufacturer, etc. To the far right, if your list is long or your browser window is small, you would also see a scroll bar to move up and down your list. As you select materials from the box on the left, the program adds them to your takeoff sheet on the right. Next, let's add material items to this section. Now I want you to look at your Handout 2 takeoff sheet. See the 2-inch EMT conduit with 3 3/0 wires and 1 number 6 ground on the sheet? We're going to enter the materials into our estimate. On the top left of the page, you should see a Wizards button. Click on it now. The content below the Wizards button box should now be showing you a complete list of the wizards. Next, click the arrow in the circle to the right of Conduit Wizard. Do you see that? Conduit Wizard is 5 items down the list. Again, click on the circle with an arrow in it next to the Conduit Wizard. You should now have a pop-up window on your screen that says Constants at the top. This pop-up is where you input information like size and type of conduit, plus size and type of wire. Look at Handout 2, the takeoff sheet. Look at item 1 on your takeoff sheet. It is EMT 2-inch with 3 3/0 copper wires and a number 6 ground wire. The quantity at the far right is 150 feet. On the next line down, you see L's, meaning 90-degree bends, shown. To the far right, you see the quantity of L's is 3. We will now input the 2-inch conduit run by using the Conduit Wizard. On the top of the pop-up, next to the word Material, there's a drop-down that says PVC. Click on that drop-down and select EMT. Next, move to the right, click the Size drop-down and select 2-inch. Again, our conduit run is 2-inch EMT with 3 3/0 wires. Next, at the top right-hand side of the pop-up window, click the blue Find button. That populates the correct material down below the product section of your pop-up window. As we discussed on our key concepts, conduit applications represent different levels of difficulty for installing conduit. Below Products, click the Application drop-down list. This displays the conduit applications. Labor for each application varies depending on difficulty of installation. Red Rhino calculates the labor automatically based on your selection. Today we will leave the application at normal. Next, below the application box, click in the Run Length box and type in 150 or 150 feet for your number of feet as shown on your takeoff sheet. Just to the right of that is a box for the number of runs. Click in this box and type in the number 2. Next, we are going to enter the 3 3/0 copper wires plus a number 6 ground wire. Click the top wire drop-down that says wire number 12 CU stranded. Select wire number 3/0 CU for wire number 3/0 copper. On the same line, move to the box that says number of and type in the number 3 for 3 conductors. Next, let's input the ground wire. Click in the second wire drop-down box and select the wire number 6 CU for number 6 copper wire. To the right of that is the second box that says number of. Click in that box and type in the number 1 for 1 ground wire. Below the third wire drop-down box is a box that says makeup 1.5. We will leave the makeup alone for this example. You will remember that we discussed wire makeup during key business concepts. The Conduit Wizard calculates the amount of wire sticking out of both ends of the conduit. When you input a number into the makeup box, that is how much wire it adds to each end of the conduit. Next, click in the elbows quantity box, which is for the number of 90s or elbows needed. This box is labeled ELLSQTY. Type in the number 3. Let's continue with our conduit input. Next, toward the top of the pop-up, across from Products, click the Add button. This allows the Conduit Wizard to populate the material sheet with the selected items. Next, click the blue Save button near the top center of your page. Now let's look at what was transferred. Look at what we just input. On the top line, line 1, is the EMT conduit. Looking over to the right, you will see the catalog number of the material, the quantity of material, which is 150 feet, and the unit price of the material. Next to that is the unit of measure. Here you can see an example of what I discussed earlier about the unit of measure. The unit of measure is either E for each, C for 100, or M for 1000. The unit of measure displayed corresponds to the UOM used when you buy that product. Conduit is sold per 100 feet, so the unit of measure is shown per C or per 100. Further to the right on the same line, you'll notice that the labor hours are displayed plus labor UOM or unit of measure. The next column is extended labor, which is the total labor hours required to install the conduit in that run. Each listed item shows the unit price of material plus the extended price. It shows the labor hours per unit plus extended labor. This information shows up on the recap, which displays labor and material totals. Notice that the Conduit Wizard has automatically added couplings, connectors, supports, and the total footage of wire needed. Wizards are for rapid input of materials. Wizards greatly speed up the estimating process. Now I will show you how to use the Assemblies feature. As discussed on the handout, assemblies are pre-grouped lists of materials and labor needed to install items such as plugs, switches, and light fixtures. Assemblies greatly speed up the estimating process. Red Rhino has several assemblies that you can use, or you can create your own. For this session, I will have you use an existing assembly. Let's input a fixture assembly. In the box at the top left of the page next to the Wizards button, click the drop-down and select Assemblies. Notice the content of the box below changed and now lists assemblies. The assemblies are shown with numbers 10 through 20. There are assemblies for fixtures, 4S boxes, switches, dimmers, receptacles, and so on. On your takeoff sheet, Handout 2, Item 2 is 2x4 fluorescent lay-in parabolic fixtures. To the far right on the sheet, it shows the quantity of 25. We'll now enter the fixtures as seen on the handout as an assembly to be more efficient. Click on the little plus sign in the box to the left of the number 10 fixtures. Next, click on 101, recessed fluorescent fixtures. Several different light fixture assemblies will appear listed below. Click in the quantity box for the first item, which is 101 2x4 fluorescent lay-in parabolic, under QTY for quantity. Type in the number 25, which is the quantity of fixtures shown on the takeoff sheet. Next, click the blue Add button inside the box. The fixture materials have now transferred to your estimate sheet on the right. Click the blue Save button near the top center of your page. Look at each item that is included in a fixture assembly. Each assembly includes a fixture and 3 lamps, 2 support wires or earthquake wires. The assembly also includes labor and material dollars for a 4-foot fixture whip, and finally wire nuts. On the takeoff input page, you can change any of the material prices or labor hours of any of the items. If your lamps are typically quoted with the fixtures, you would simply delete the lamps. I cover editing the takeoff extensively in later sessions. Notice that the fixtures have 0 cost. Oftentimes, fixtures are quoted items. Later I show you how to input fixture quotes. Again, assemblies are a tool for preparing estimates faster. In a later session, I'll show you several other assemblies and how to use them. You can also try them out when you practice on your own. Next, we will input an item from the product catalog. Look at item 3 on your takeoff sheet, which is 225 amp panel, 480 277 volt MLO for main lug only. In the box at the top left of the page by the Wizards button, click the drop-down box and select Product. You will see that below the drop-down list shows Product Catalog, which shows numbers 4000 through 9000. Just like you did with the Wizards and Assemblies, locate the materials you want in the product catalog, select the item you need, and it will transfer to your estimate. Click the little plus sign in the box to the left of 8000, electrical labor only. Click on 11005, Panels. Below on the left bottom, you will see panels listed. You may have to scroll down a bit to see the 5th one down, which is a 225 amp MLO or main lug only 480 277 panel. Click in the box next to that under QTY and type in the number 1. And click the Add button above it. Now, before you click Save, we must enter the price of the panel. Let's say you called your wholesaler and you got a price of the panel of $675 as shown on the takeoff sheet. Click in the description box and delete the statement See Quote. Now, to the right on the same line under Unit Price, which has a 0 in it, click in the box. When the dialog box pops up, click OK. I'll explain the pop-up later. Type in the number 675 for $675. Remember, it's not necessary to show the decimal point. Next, click the Save button. You now have the material cost and labor hours input for the panel. This concludes today's demonstration of the takeoff input page and how we enter materials listed on a takeoff sheet. Now I will show you how to input direct job expenses. Job expenses, as you probably know, are additional project costs or expenses required which are over and above the direct material costs. From the takeoff page, click the blue Back button near the top center of the page next to the Save button. You have now returned to the Estimate page. To the far right of the page under the New and View Multiple buttons, click View in the Other Expense column. We just moved to the Other Expense page. This page is where you input all the other job expenses that are not included in your regular takeoff. The expense categories include expenses, quotes, subcontracts, additional materials, and additional labor. This is the page where you would add such things as permits, work done by others, rentals, etc., to ensure that your estimate covers everything. Now let's add some expenses. We will work with two different examples of other expenses for a job. For our first example, we will assume that the project requires a forklift, which will cost $500 to rent. See the line that says Expenses for Section Blueprint E1? To the right, click the Create button. This will expand your input options to list a number of common expenses. Under Expenses for Section Blueprint E1, let's throw in some dollars for forklift rental. The Other Expense page is now expanded to list a number of common expenses. Click on the number 7, which is underlined, and it will open up. You have now moved to the Expense Detail page to input the dollar cost for the forklift rental. The forklift rental costs $500. Click in the amount box and type in $500 for $500. At the far right, click the blue Save button. You will see that it saved the number that you input on the Other Expense page. Now to our second example, let's say you received a $2,300 quote for fixtures from your wholesaler. Use the scroll bar at the right to scroll down till you see on the far left, Quotes for Section, Blueprint E1. Click on the blue Create button to the right and your Other Expense page will expand again to include a quotes list. Click on number 4 that is underlined next to Fixtures. You are back at the Other Expense Detail page. Click in the amount box and type in $2,300 for $2,300. Do not type commas or decimal points, just the number. Next, click the blue Save button at the top right of the screen. This is how simple it is to add job expenses to your estimates. You click on the expense that you want to add, enter the dollar amount, and click the blue Save button. You will also see these numbers appear in the recap. Now let's continue. Next, click the blue Back button that you see on the top right of the page just below the header. You have now returned to the estimate page. Next, click the blue Recap button. Now you should be at the Recap page. At the top left of the page it should say Recap for Estimate Sample Session 1. We viewed the recap earlier, so we will only take a couple of minutes on this one. With Red Rhino, you develop accurate estimates, not guesstimates. With a solid takeoff and the input of materials into the program, you will account for all of your costs. Know your costs so you know your profit. As we have seen today, business profit is the result of applying knowledge through the use of good tools. This concludes our segment on tools and technology. In this session, Session 1, we covered the first key business concepts. You also saw firsthand how these key concepts are applied effectively using Red Rhino to manage your business and profit. In our next session, we will continue with new key business concepts that will make you more money. I recommend you practice using Red Rhino. You have full access to this great software during the trial period. Just log on anytime. My name is John Kelsey. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me at 866-444-7411 or email me at johnkk@hardhatis.com. It has been my great pleasure presenting this session to you. Use these business concepts to improve your company, apply the winning sales strategies, and leverage what you have learned to grow your company profitably.